Welcome back. A gun-wielding neighborhood bully. That's how witnesses described the accused killer. But when Joe Campbell took the stand, the defense was hoping to change that perception, painting him as a husband and grandfather in fear for his life. What version would the jury believe? I'm Keith Morrison with the conclusion of The Feud. On the 3rd of March, 2016, in the old Supreme Court chamber at Montana State Capitol Building, the question went to the jury. Did Joe Campbell have a right to shoot Tim Newman? Was it self-defense? Or was it cold-blooded murder? Neighbors Dan and Sue De La Rosa waited and willed their thoughts into the jury room.
I believe he murdered him.
Murder. Absolutely.
Though they knew full well that since Montana passed a new law legalizing certain kinds of self-defense, it was hard to know what a jury might decide.
If they find a not guilty, he moves up. There'll be for sale signs for everywhere up there.
So, nervous hours around the old courtroom, which turned into a whole day, and then a second.
There's so much just anxiousness, just waiting for the jury to come back.
And then, just after noon, day 2, the jury sent the judge a note.
Please be seated.
And everybody was summoned to the courtroom.
I am told that you folks are hopelessly deadlocked and that even if given more time, you couldn't reasonably expect to reach a decision. Is that your understanding of events?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm going to declare mistrial.
A mistrial. 3 weeks of testimony, all for naught.
And the state may or may not bring the case again. We're done here. Thank you.
I couldn't believe it. It was a complete shock, I think, for the whole family, that he could just leave that courtroom and not have a guilty or a not guilty and just like nothing happened. Like nothing happened.
What was the state to do? Well, in this case, said the prosecutors, the decision was obvious. They offered Joe Campbell a plea deal, and they scheduled a retrial because
It's a dangerous situation, and I'm concerned it'll be repeated and somebody else will be killed.
Joe Campbell remained out on bail with the proviso that he remain at least 10 miles away from his property up on the mountain. But less than 3 months later, May 2016, Joe Campbell elected not to face a second trial. Instead, he walked into a courtroom and waived his claim that the shooting was legal.
How do you plead to the charge of negligent homicide?
No contest, Your Honor.
A plea of no contest, meaning Campbell neither admitted nor denied the charge that he committed negligent homicide.
Mr. Campbell,
A reduced charge from the original allegation of intentional homicide, Montana's parlance for first-degree murder.
I believe it's in the best interest of myself and my family.
In a case like this, said the prosecutors, you take what you can get.
We're focusing on community protection, and we think it's probably the best agreement that we could reach and have a guaranteed resolution of this case.
Before the judge pronounced Campbell's sentence, Tim Newman's wife, Jackie, went to the podium.
Just because you are callous and have no remorse, I want you to be aware, as Tim's wife, you have affected our lives in a horrendous way.
Tim's daughter, Christy, also sent a statement, unable to be present because she just had a baby, a granddaughter Tim never got to see.
My dad died a hero. What will you die?
It makes me very angry. Yeah, very upset, very sad. Like, who is this guy that can just steal such a beautiful soul from this world?
The judge offered Joe a chance to explain or apologize.
Is there anything that you would like to say?
No, Your Honor.
Campbell also declined a chance to explain on Dateline. His lawyer issued a statement which reads in part, the plea agreement allowed Mr. Campbell, his wife and family to go forward with the certainty of freedom and the removal of constant stress and anxiety, while still allowing him to maintain his innocence and continue to maintain he acted necessarily in self-defense.
For your plea of nolo contendere to
The sentence? It was, of course, part of Joe's deal with the state. 20 years. But not in any prison. All of it a suspended sentence.
And no fines or restitution is imposed.
But as the neighbors listened, the judge told Joe he'll have to abide by some very important conditions. He'll never again be allowed to possess a firearm. And for 20 years, even if the old man manages to live that long, he cannot return to the mountain he once called home. He will never again set foot in his house, his forest, his trails, his precious property.
Ironic, isn't it? You care so much about your property that you never get to see it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very ironic. You know, before he owned all the big property, he recreated just like all of us.
Yeah.
And he walked down those trails across everyone else's property and hunted and enjoyed it, and life was good. But when he decided he needed to take control is when it all changed.
It's like a fable, isn't it?
Yes.
Aesop could have written it.
There you go.
Huh.
And if Tim Newman were on a cloud up there somewhere, said his daughter Christy, he'd be telling her, well, she knows exactly what he'd say.
I'm sorry. Sorry, darling. Sorry for going up to that gate without someone with me. I'm sorry I'm not there to meet my granddaughter. I'm sorry we can't go on another hike together. Or I love you, you know.
Praise the Lord for this country.
That's all for this edition of Dateline on ID. I'm Keith Morris. Thank you for watching.